The police sedan was hiking down Center Avenue at a lively clip. It passed a trolley car on the wrong side, ran through a safety zone, jumped a red light, then cut the inside corner going into North Jockey Street. MacBride, sitting in the back with Moriarty and Cohen, said, "Gahagan, if you got to bust every traffic law that was ever made, why don't you at least use the siren? I haven't heard a peep out of it." "Aw," yawned Cohen, "he don't like to wake people up." Moriarty said, "No, Ike, he's just bashful. He don't want everyone to know it's a police car." "Yous is all wrong," laughed Gahagan coarsely. "I ain't blowing the siren 'cause there ain't no siren." "There ain't no siren?" echoed MacBride. Gahagan said, "Didn't Sergeant Betdecken tell yous?" "Ha!" chortled Gahagan. "Somebody stole the siren this evening while the car was parked in front of headquarters." McBride growled, "If you weren't at the wheel of this car, you jackass, I'd kick you in the ear. Last week no lights, the week before no spare tire, this week no siren. Next week maybe," said Cohen. "No Gahagan." That was from MacBride and Kennedy by Frederick Nebel. This is volume 4 of a 4-volume set. I'm going to be talking today about Frederick Nebel and his MacBride and Kennedy and his Gales and McGill series. Frederick Nebel was a pulp writer. He had many different series. MacBride and Kennedy was probably his most popular and most well known. They're collected. There's a complete collection of Frederick Nebel. The first 4 volumes are the complete MacBride and Kennedy, which I highly recommend. They're collected in 4 volumes, and it's the first 4 of his collected works. It's about a police captain, MacBride, and his friend that's a reporter named Kennedy. MacBride tolerates Kennedy, but grows to have a friendship with him over the course of these stories. Like I said, there's 4 volumes of them, so there's quite a few stories. Kennedy accompanies MacBride to crime scenes, and he always ends up getting the scoop on these, and the other reporters are jealous of him for that. Sometimes he even solves some of the crimes. It's great pulp detective fiction, very fun stories. I read you just a sample out of the selection here out of book 4. They're just constantly bantering back and forth. The characters grow over a series of stories. There seems to be a beginning, middle, and end to it in the way that he writes these. And this, as you can see, this volume was from 35 and 36, 1935, 36. And the other ones were earlier than that. And let's see here. The city also is a character itself. I believe they call it Richmond, but it's really kind of like Long Island and New York, and it's fit into boroughs, and they are always dealing with corruption and scandal and murder and all those great things that you find in great pulp detective fiction. The characters have virtues and flaws. The characters aren't perfect. MacBride, even though he's a good policeman, he's not corrupt in any way, but he'll still have a drink of alcohol during a time when it was banned. And he has understandings with people who run places that serve alcohol and do gambling and all this, and for them kind of staying straight with him, he plays it straight with them and lets them operate as long as they don't do anything, way out of order. Kennedy is a drunk. It gets kind of worse as it goes along, and it shows really the effects that has on him. But they're really good characters. Lots of fun stuff. Uh, really recommend it. They fight organized crime, murders, con artists. Like I said, a lot of corruption and scandal. A lot of the people in the city are corrupt. A lot of the politicians. So they're always doing that, and then of course fighting against them because he's a cop and he kind of has to answer to these people, but he also knows they're corrupt. But he usually comes out on top. They're all short stories and novelettes. Uh, so you can sit down and enjoy one at a time, or I usually binged quite a few at a time. Um, there's more care given to the continuity of these characters than you'll find in some pulp series. Some pulp series are kind of one note. That doesn't make them any less good. It just, you find a little more care taken with Frederick Nebel in these to make the characters advance over the course of these stories and to really grow as people. And you see, that MacBride has a family. You rarely see them, but he's always talking about them, and you've always got that in the back of your mind. It is a product of its time, so there will be some politically incorrect stuff. Uh, there's not a lot of it in here, not as much as some others. So, I mean, you just kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. But it's not, like I said, it's not as bad as some others. They also spawned a series of movies, which are loosely based on these. They're called the Torchy Blaine movies, and they star Glenda Farrell as Torchy Blaine. She takes the place of Kennedy, and she's engaged to the police captain Steve MacBride, and she's always getting into trouble, and he's always getting her out of trouble. And it's kind of romantic comedy, so it's, like I said, they're loosely based on the books. But I actually highly recommend them. They're good stories. There's 9 movies. 2 of them didn't have Glenda Farrell, and those are just kind of whatever. But the 7 that had Glenda Farrell were really good. I really enjoyed them, and like I said, they're loosely based on it. But if you enjoy the stories, it's a fun watch uh, to see them uh, because of their banter back and forth, and they're just entertaining movies, and I highly recommend them. Now, the next series I'm going to talk about is Gales and McGill, and there's 2 volumes as part of his complete works. This is volume 2. Uh, they are air pilots, and they get into air adventure stories, and they're soldiers of fortune. Uh, that was big uh, one of the big genres of pulp fiction was the air adventure and pilots, because flying was fairly new and it was really exciting to people. And these 2 guys are pilots, Gales and McGill, and they're great short stories and novelettes. Again, you can read them one at a time or in a series. There is some character growth between them, not quite as much as the MacBride and Kennedy stories, but they do have a character arc. And these 2 guys are 2 guys that are veterans. They do anything to help each other out. They're like brothers. Um, it's great character work from Frederick Nebel. Uh, and like I said, even though there's not as much of an arc as there is for MacBride and Kennedy, they do have a lot of great character interaction between the 2 of them. The banter back and forth, the way they end up uh, dealing with the people that hire them. They always manage, no matter what they're hired for, they accomplish the mission, but they also always do the right thing. They're good guys. They fight in foreign countries, and you get to see parts of the world that people don't normally get to see, and there are a lot over in Asia, especially. And so it gave people a taste of other countries when people couldn't travel. It was during the Depression, uh, and people just didn't do that much traveling back then, to other countries at least. So it was exciting to see that. It was exciting because they were in the air. They'd run into trouble with their plane all the time. Uh, they had a couple different planes over the course of the series, uh, but it was always a good time. They have a great partnership between the two of them, a real friendship. They always put their lives on the line for each other. They'll do anything to help each other out. Like I said, they're almost as brothers. Um, Lots of air adventure. One of the better air pulps, uh, because Frederick Nebel was a good writer, uh, and all of Nebel's stuff is really good. If you're a fan of pulp, or you're looking for a way to get into pulp fiction, Frederick Nebel's a good place to start. Edgar Rice Burroughs is as well, but his is more remembered as the novels they were published as after they were in the pulps. So he's kind of still looked at as a novelist and not as much as a pulp fictioneer. But Frederick Nebel is definitely remembered as a pulp writer, and his stories are really good. There's others in other volumes which I may get to in the future. I have the whole set. Uh, they're really good. Um, I highly recommend the whole series of both of these. They're available print on demand. They're not on Kindle yet. Most of the time, these get cheaper when they're on Kindle. A lot of pulp is available on the Kindle, but Frederick Nebel's is not. But it is print on demand, and he you can get them from Amazon uh, easily, and that's where I got mine. I know Amazon doesn't box their stuff quite as way as some people would like it, but they're usually the best, easiest, and cheapest way to get it. Uh, so again, that's MacBride and Kennedy, and Gales and McGill is the air adventures. MacBride and Kennedy is the detective fiction. You definitely want to check these out. Again, if you have never read pulp or think you wouldn't like it, if you read these, I think you'll change your mind. They're really good stories, and like I said, I intend to do a lot more pulp in the future. So some of it's hard to get, some of it's not, but this Nebel is good, easy to get. Like I said, on Amazon, and that kind of covers Frederick Nebel for right now. So thank you for watching me here at the Heap. I appreciate your time, and hopefully you will check these books out.